Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing and PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview. Today I'm joined by Richard Graham, the MP for Gloucester. Richard, good morning on this historic day. A new MP might be in the cards. What's your first thoughts, please?
Well, I hope not a new MP, Mark, but a new PM, definitely.
Sorry, a new PM. Feed up too early.
And, I hope that that's all resolved by Monday evening, but if not, then by Friday evening. So, coming soon.
I mean, let's be honest about it. It is a bit of a shambles, isn't it? You must be quite embarrassed the way this is all panned out.
Well, it's been a pretty difficult time. No one would pretend it's been our finest hour. But what I am quite quietly pleased with is that we were able to resolve the process for sorting out how we get a new Prime Minister very quickly yesterday in London, both at the party board and at the 22 exec. And as I say, I hope we will have a solution by Monday evening.
What I was quite surprised about, you were really doing the circuit a couple of yesterday. You were on Sky, I think BBC. You were on Times Radio as well.
Yeah, no, I've done
doing so much. Are you positioning yourself, sir?
No, not remotely. But because I'm on the 22 exec and on the party board, and so I know what's going on, and I can answer quite a lot of the questions that people have got in mind. And I do have a very strong view about what's needed next and how we restore competency and stability to our approach, particularly to the current economic situation. Look, we all know that whether it's America, anywhere on the continent of Europe or here, there are some hugely difficult problems, and the idea that anybody has got all the solutions is for the fairies. But what we do need is the best person possible, and I believe we have got that person ready, waiting.
And who's that person?
That's Rishi Sunak. His analysis of the economy and the situation and what we needed to do in the summer was absolutely correct. He's played it completely straight, absolutely no comment in public, no undermining in private of Prime Minister Liz Truss' efforts to ramp forward a sort of growth program while having, real concerns about what this would mean. And he's there ready, waiting for us. And, I very much hope that my colleagues will see that everyone will come together and that we have Rishi as our new Prime Minister as soon as possible.
I mean, the world at the moment is a complete basket case, isn't it? You've got the Russians dropping bombs near planes over the Black Sea. We've got obviously COVID on the horizon. We've got the cost of living crisis. I've got a report today from Cordial Ray from CCCP. He was saying that rents have gone up by 20% in sort of Manchester, Birmingham Way, Cardiff 18%. We believe we're looking in Gloucester around 15% rate rises. There's also this no fault evictions as well. And you in the government, what can you do to help the sort of the sort of less fortunate people, especially these no-fault evictions, and landlords with the power to raise their rents as well? It's a difficult one, I know.
Well, no-fault evictions, I think, although there's been a certain amount of debate about that, I think that will go forward. There are some possibly negative implications. It may mean that people do withdraw from the sort of rental sector, and we do need to have enough supply of rented accommodation for people to be able to take it up. So it's not 100% one way or the other, but I think on balance almost all of us agree that the no-fault evictions is the right direction to go in.
We just recently heard as well about the investment zones that Cheltenham and Stroud have turned them down. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the Gloucestershire investment zone, I think which is sort of a bundle of different zones together, if you like, I think is a really attractive option for our county. It has hugely positive potential for Gloucester because of the land that Gloucester City Council own on the edge of Gloucestershire Airport, and the possibility of 500 homes being built there will result in a big capital receipt for Gloucester, which can then be reinvested in our city, give real hope that some of the funding gaps on the estate regeneration in Podsmead and Matson can be resolved, and that we can push forward there with new and better and energy efficient housing. So there's some really attractive bits to it. I find it very hard to believe that Cheltenham Borough Council would be against the investment zone around Junction 10 and the cyber park on the edge of Cheltenham. And I'm astonished that Stroud District Council are turning down the opportunity of an investment zone around Berkeley, which will bring, many new jobs and opportunities there. But look, that's very much for them. All the MPs in Gloucestershire are united with the County Council on taking this forward.
I mean, it does appear that Cheltenham has turned it down.
Well, we'll have to see what happens next, but I think we'll find Alex Chalk will take quite a strong view on this.
Yeah, we've got a letter from him we printed yesterday, actually. I mean, there's so much going on at the moment, Richard. I mean, moving forward with the sort of government's plans for the cost of living, really, what do you think the next steps are going to be with our Chancellor?
Well, I think, Jeremy Hunt's done a terrific job in stabilising the situation, restoring a very clear focus on having public finances that do improve, getting the Office of Budget report support when he comes out with a statement on the 31st of October and the spending decisions there. I think the way to look at it, Mark, overall, if I was one of my constituents here in Gloucester, is I'd be saying to myself, look, there's a huge amount of drama going on, but ultimately what matters to me as an individual are these very important earthy things. Can I get access to my dentist? Can I get access to my doctor? Are the buses going to arrive and will they be more or less on time? Will my mortgage rate go up or down? Have I got confidence that we've got a government of really capable, competent people who are doing their best to navigate through these difficult waters? And I think the answers to all of those questions will be made much easier when we've got the right Prime Minister in place. Jeremy Hunt will still be there as Chancellor, and a lot of these decisions will be made, I think, in the best interests of everybody in this country. And I think it'd be, I hope, a much better world.
What would you say to our business community, obviously, that we pitch ourselves out and work with?
So from the business community's point of view, to have stable financial markets, and everything is relative, with interest rates rising fast in America and inflation galloping ahead both there and in the continent of Europe, we're not going to somehow escape completely untouched. But if they can see that they've got a government absolutely determined and working hand in glove with the Bank of England to stamp down inflation and bring this under control as quickly as possible, that's a much better environment for business and future investment. That is the key to it all.
And how much are you worried about nuclear war with Russia?
Well, I think there's now a strong possibility that some form of nuclear weapon might be dropped in the Black Sea. And that's exactly why Defence Minister Ben Wallace was there with the US in America a couple of days ago to discuss what NATO's response to that would be. My guess is they've got their plans worked out, their responses in place. And clearly everybody wants to avoid this. But it would be perverse if everybody wanted the Ukraine somehow to do badly in the war in order to prevent Putin from dropping his nuclear weapon. What we're dealing with effectively is a sort of wounded buffalo that is very dangerous because it feels it has nothing to lose by charging into action at almost anything. And clearly what we all hope is that somehow in Russia this resolves itself, that Putin is moved from power and that some peace agreement is very quickly reached. But none of those things are in our control. We've no idea if, or when these things might come to pass. So we've just got to keep plugging away as a united front, everybody in NATO and everybody in Europe together to bring this to an end as soon as we possibly can and help Ukraine win.
And I suppose that you do back this 3% growth in the spend for the MOD.
Well, I do, but of course that's by 2030. So, it'll have to be bit by bit. But I think everybody's agreed that at a time of such huge uncertainty, it would be crazy not to try and do our utmost to put us in a strong position to help. But that has to be balanced, of course, against trying to make sure that you have fairness for people who are working, those who are retired, and those who are on universal credit, and in some cases unable to work. And those are the difficult decisions in the spending review that Jeremy Hunt is tackling right now.
Now, we had Steve Collins Gardner from Visit Gloucestershire, who was saying about the hospitality trade really struggling to recruit, chefs, waiters, all sorts of people. We know there's every day I talk to companies that can't find the recruitment. Do you think it's time that we relaxed our immigration policies a little bit to let some more people in?
Well, there are certainly some sectors where we do need to do that. So, for example, yesterday there was debate in Parliament on dentistry, something I feel very strongly about. It's incredibly hard for many people to get an NHS dentist appointment in Gloucester, and that's bad news for their children especially. So, one of the things we could do about that is allow people, for example, from New Zealand, Australia, Hong Kong, who've got very similar qualifications, immediate access to come over here and help relieve the pressures on dentistry. I mean, there's another big problem with the contract that dentists have with NHS England. And I think, although it's not a government contract, I think the government is going to have to intervene to make some short-term changes. And that's one example of the sort of way in which, as you say, some changes on immigration would make a big difference.
Now, just to wrap up, really, Stagecoach has been, part and parcel of our stories over the last week. 300,000 bus journeys cancelled. Obviously, the Forest of Dean really hit hard. Do you think there's a mistake by Gloucester City Council, Gloucester County Council, handing over one contract to one company? Your picture's just gone, Richard. That's all.
There's some call coming in at the same time. Sorry about that, Mark. I think the answer to that is the current situation needs to be resolved by the County Council basically tendering out those routes that Stagecoach no longer feels able to run. It's probably going to be very expensive for the County Council to do that because there aren't as many passengers as there were. The costs have gone up considerably. It's very hard to get the drivers and all the rest of it. But if that's what's needed to be done, I'm sure that parts of the rural economy in Gloucestershire, as you say, the Forest of Dean especially, we do find that incredibly important. Otherwise, how do they get to work? But from the point of view of Gloucester, it's very important that the Gloucester services remain strongly in place. Mark, I think the awful thing is, I think I've got one of the national TV stations on the line for me. We for 9:45. So
that's okay. No worries.
Very much if we bring this to a close.
No, well, thank you very much for the extra time, Richard. I do appreciate it. Always great to see you. And thanks for talking to Punchline Talks as always.
Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you, Richard. Bye-bye.
Thanks.